good to be back here in the Antelope Valley in the Mojave Desert. When I came in and saw that the high each day I was going to be here was at least 105, I realized I truly am in the Mojave Desert. Okay. Coming from Boulder, Colorado, it feels kind of hot. But thank God for air conditioning. And so good to be here with our topic today, living it is believing it. Kind of like seeing is believing, but living it is believing it. Living these principles are believing these principles. And this whole month, the theme is accountability. And we're talking today about accountability to ourselves. Oh, self-accountability. So often we think of accountability like, I'm going to hold you accountable, and I'm going to hold you accountable, and I'm going to hold you accountable. And really, the one person we can truly hold accountable is ourselves. So that's what I want to explore today. How do we be accountable to ourselves? How do we live our own highest ideals, our own highest aspirations? One of the things I'm going to use in exploring that is this member statement that a group of about 25 of you last time I was here, last month, when we met after service, developed. This member statement of what it is that we are aspiring to, what it is that we are practicing, what it is that when we say we belong to this community, when we say we're a part of this community, what it is we mean by that. Like, what does it mean to really step into being a part of, being a member, being in ownership of the spiritual community? Self-accountability. I also want to let you know that I have a book that I wrote called A Simple Guide to Planetary Transformation, and I brought a few copies with me today. I brought some with me the first time I was here, and many of you purchased them, and I thought there might be some of you who have not gotten a copy yet. And this book is a very simple look at science of mind in action. Kind of how do we, it's very related to our topic today, because it's about how do we become such a beneficial presence on the planet by clearing anything in us that doesn't have us showing up fully as the truth, as the true divine being that we are. So those are $15, and I'd be happy to make those available and to sign them for you as well. So let's move into this talk here today. In this self-accountability, where we look at what do I truly believe, what do I truly value, what's truly important to me, how am I choosing to show up in the world? When we get really clear on that, when we get really clear on what is my purpose, what are the values and standards and highest ideals that I'm holding myself accountable to, how many of you know when you get clear on that, that it becomes a path in itself? It becomes a growth path in itself, because what happens? What happens when you get clear on that is you also started to notice not only where you are living up to your ideals, where I am living up to my ideals, but also where I am not living up to my ideals. And so it invites me to be on a path of how do I step into what I have stated to myself, most importantly, are my ideals. So let's visit with this member statement that was developed. This member statement says, we are a committed, open, spiritually inspired, science of mind community, learning and living the principles of tithing, service, trust, and mutual respect for each person's path. I'll read that again. We are a committed, open, spiritually inspired, science of mind community, learning and living the principles of tithing, service, mutual respect, trust, putting a little out of order, for each person's path, mutual respect for each person's path. I don't know if the 25 or so people who put that together, I don't know if you realized what you actually did. Because what you actually did, from where I sit, is put something really powerful together in terms of your spiritual path. Because you set something out there in motion that said, this is what I am willing to be. This is what I am willing to become. Let's explore what that means. What it is that we're actually stepping into in that vision statement. And I'm going to kind of give you sort of my interpretation, my view, my sense of what it is you've agreed to, and then you can get your own sense of what it is that you've agreed to in that. Mutual respect. We see the highest and best in each other. Meaning that we assume the highest intention from each other. That when we see something happening, we assume that each person has the highest intention. Trust. Ultimately, we trust the presence of divinity within ourselves, but we also trust the presence of divinity within others. Like, what does it mean to trust? I remember years ago I was teaching a practitioner class, and a woman came in and she kept saying, I started dating this man and I don't feel like I can trust him. And she said, I started dating this man and I don't feel like I can trust him. And she said it over and over again. And the implication was that she should be able to trust him, but she can't trust him. And what I said to her was, do you trust yourself? Because if something in you is steering you away, you don't have to worry about whether you can trust this person or not. Your own inner compass, your own inner guide is already guiding you. So all we're ever really trusting in is our own inner guidance. Can we trust ourselves enough to listen? So we don't have to worry about, like, what is this person's motives and what is that person's motives? We trust that we will know what we need to know in each moment. Service is another component of the statement. That we give of our talents and we allow ourselves to be used as a beneficial presence in the community. Tithing. Oh, wow. Really? You guys really put that in? You guys really put the tithing into that statement? Like, you guys are signing up for tithing? That's a pretty big one. That's a pretty big one. Tithing. Do you know what tithing means? Does anyone know what tithing means? Nasa, you know what tithing means? What does tithing mean? Oh, you can't talk because you're in front of the camera. All right. Who else knows what tithing means?
Time, treasure, and talent.
No.
That's what we're doing.
That's kind of like that.
That's
tithing. What you're speaking of, time, treasure, and talent, is three words we use about what it means to be an active, loyal member of a spiritual community. No, see, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell you what you signed up for here. No, don't shoot the messenger because I didn't create this. You all created this. You created this. Tithing specifically means, and anyone have tomatoes with them? Because if so, I'm going to duck here. Tithing specifically means that you give 10% of your income back to your spiritual source of inspiration. Yes. Now again, don't shoot me. I didn't come up with this. I helped facilitate it, but the group came up with this member statement. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, so don't get too scared. I'm going to give you some comfort around that, so you don't get too anxious about it now. But I'm really impressed that you came up with tithing, which is a high spiritual practice and spiritual principle involved, as one of your things you're signing up for in your member statement. Community. Coming together, being part of something greater than ourselves. Coming together to be supported, to grow together as opposed to just growing on our own. For many years, I was on a spiritual path just growing on my own. It was an amazing shift for me when I came into spiritual community and found other people who were on a similar path to me. Science of mind. One of the aspects of science of mind is that we take full responsibility for our experience of life. Gabe and Katie Hendricks, who are a couple, and they wrote a book called Conscious Loving, and they talk about co-commitment versus codependence. And they suggest that most of us have relationships that are much more codependent. And they put forth this vision of relationships that are co-committed. And the fifth agreement of co-commitment is that I commit to acting from the awareness that I am 100% the source of my reality. I am 100% the source of my reality. What would it be like to live in community, to be in this community where everyone, and that statement is very consistent with the science of mind, where everyone was saying, I am 100% responsible for the source of my reality. That would be pretty cool. That is also a very high statement, that I am 100% responsible for my experience, essentially. How many of you feel like you are 100% responsible for your experience?
Sometimes.
Quite a few. So 99%. Nanette, you feel like you are 99% responsible for your experience. It's a very interesting concept. Because in codependence, we say, when something happens, we say, I am angry because you did such and such. Or I am frustrated because you did such and such. In this taking 100% responsibility for our experience, we recognize that you can't make me unhappy and you can't make me angry. There's something in me that you could trigger that I would get angry from, but you can't make me angry. I get angry because of something in me, like a button, and we say like, there's a button in me, you push that button, but you didn't install it.
Yeah.
Right? There's a Unity minister named Gary Simmons. And Gary Simmons wrote a book called The Eye of the Storm. And the I is just the letter I, meaning you and me. The eye of the storm, that we are at the center of our life. And he talks about living in a world where no one and nothing is against me. Living in a world where no one and nothing is against me. And he suggests that that is the real truth. That in a teaching where we practice and recognize oneness and connectedness, and that the fullness and power of God are right where we are, then we recognize there is no opposition. There is just one. That we are truly all one and connected. What would it be like to live in a world, because you do, you live in a world where no one and nothing is against you? How many of you know you live in that world right now? You live in a world where no one and nothing is against you. Where everything is working for your highest good. Everything is working for you. You're in a spiritual community here where no one and nothing is against you. Everything is for you. Spiritually inspired is another component of the member statement. We allow ourselves to be inspired. We allow ourselves to be inspired. Now, I didn't say that you get a speaker up here every Sunday that inspires you, or that the practitioners inspire you, or that the musicians inspire you, that you allow yourself to be inspired. When I led a community in Davis, California, there was a woman Barbara, who would take notes. She would take copious notes whenever I was speaking. And it was really great for my ego. You know, I thought, wow, she's just hanging on every word I'm saying. She was just writing away in her journal. She's taking all kind of notes. And one day she came up to me and she said, you know, I'm not writing down what you said. And then the ego kind of went down some. And she said, what I'm writing down is what's being inspired in me, what's moving in me, how spirit is being inspired in me as you're saying what you say. And while I joke that it wasn't so great for the ego, I love it. I love that she got it, that something is happening in her, that the speaker and the musicians and the practitioners are pointing us to something in us. That we're trying to awaken what's already in you. We're not trying to say, look at me. We're trying to say, look at you. We're not trying to say, look at how powerful I am. We're trying to say, look at how powerful you are. Even the master teacher Jesus said, great things have I done, but even greater things shall you do. This is really a teaching about self-accountability, self-responsibility, being fully empowered within ourselves. The word open is in the member statement. We are open. To me, open means without resistance. That I'm in a flow. I'm not resisting what is happening around me. I'm not opposing or fighting, or I'm not like if we're listening to a person, to be open to me. If I'm listening to a person and I'm open, that means that I'm fully present to hearing what that person is saying. To me, resistance, where I'm creating some static in there, is if I'm listening to that person through the filter of, let's see if I agree with you or not. Let's see if what you're saying is right or not. Let's see if it's true, if it's right, if it agrees with what I think, and let me think what my response is going to be. But open means I am so present, I am so open, I am so in the flow, I am so not in resistance to what is happening in my experience. Committed is another word in there. We have a clear yes. We're not wavering. We're not like, well, let's see what they do this Sunday, or let's see what the core council does, or let's see what kind of minister they end up getting, or let's see this or that. That we have a clear yes. And a clear yes to me is an awareness that I am creating my experience, which means I am creating this community here. Like I am influencing what kind of community we are having here. How many of you think you are creating this community? Quite a few hands. So this kind of vision calls us into integrity with ourselves, into alignment with intention, with principle, with truth. And we are less concerned about whether others are living up to the member statement. And we're less concerned with keeping others accountable to the member statement. And we're more concerned with how am I living up to it? So that we become not those who beat others over the head and say like, oh, I don't think you're living up to that. But we become inspirations to others by our own example of living up to the member statement ourselves. So by our way of living up to the member statement, people say, wow, like, I want to be like Nick. Man, he's really, wow, that guy Nick, he just walks his talk. He's living that. Like, I want to be like Nick. I am inspired. I'm not doing it out of an obligation. I'm not doing it because Nick is beating me over the head. I'm doing it because I'm watching Nick and I'm watching how he's showing up. And I want to be like that. So I'm inspired. I'm inspired. So the accountability piece is a very interesting one. How can we be more accountable to ourselves? Am I living up to my highest ideal of what I say I want to be, of what I say I want to create? We were meeting with the core council yesterday afternoon, and we were having this conversation about the new incoming minister, right? And it's so easy to be like, we want this minister to have this, we don't have that. Oh, man, we want this person to walk on water. You know, there's all kinds of jokes out there about this topic, about like not just in this community, but I mean just out there in general, about like we want a minister who dresses to the nines, you know, like dresses impeccably, like walks on water, blah blah, and will work for 50 cents an hour. You know, will work for next to nothing. You know, like all these things that we want from this person. And the conversation we were having is, what is it calling us to become? We attract what we are. So it's not about what we want to get. It's about what are we being called to become? What are we being called to step into? There's a law at work here. Joan read about that in this thing called you. That there's a law operating in our lives that corresponds, that our experience corresponds to what we become. I shared with them that when I was in my 20s, I would constantly, when I was dating, I would constantly meet people and I would constantly attract people who did not treat me well. And I would keep replacing them, okay, let's bring in another one. And that person wouldn't treat me well either. And so finally I said, how am I treating me? And how am I seeing me? And what do I have written on my forehead? Because we have written on our forehead to the world, this is how to treat me. To the extent that if I have written on my forehead, don't treat me very well, I don't deserve to be treated very well, even those people who normally treat everyone well, somehow will find themselves not treating me well. And they won't even know why. They'll be like, I don't know why I treat you so badly. I usually treat people well. I don't even know why. But I'll know. So, as I shifted that way of treating myself, that way of being myself, where I was able to have self-love and self-acceptance and self-value, I began to attract people who treated me well. Now here's the funny part about that. They may not have even been different people. They might have been the same people coming in. But what changed? What changed?
You.
I did. So as we go forward here into calling in a new minister, guess who has to change? Like, guess who has to become what it is that you're looking for in this new minister? Like, what will happen when you all become all the qualities that you're looking for in this new minister? Like, you're looking for a minister who's very loving and compassionate. Well, where is there an opportunity for you to become more loving and compassionate? The science of mind teaching invites us to become something. I was in a coffee shop one time and I was reading a science of mind book, and there was a woman there and she was very curious, and she said, "Oh, what are you reading? That sounds really interesting." And I shared it with her, and she had come from a more traditional Christian background, and she, to my surprise, because she was interested and I got excited about it, and to my surprise she recoiled. And she said, oh, that's just too much. Because I was sharing with her how in Science of Mind we take responsibility, we're on a path, and we're becoming something, we're constantly growing. Science of Mind is calling us to be growing in front of each other, to be shifting and growing right in front of each other. Like, we're not meant in a Science of Mind community to just maintain the status quo. We're not meant to just maintain. We're not meant to just be the same this year as we were last year, and 10 years ago. If we're practicing Science of Mind right before everyone else's eyes, we are growing and shifting and changing. Wow. To me, I don't know about you, but to me, that was one of my favorite things about coming into a Science of Mind community. I didn't have to ask any questions about whether this was a powerful teaching or not. I saw so many people growing and stepping into their greatness and stepping into their highest vision for their lives. The evidence was all before me, and I could see what was happening to me. So it wasn't like, let's see if I believe in this or not. It was like, wow, something is happening here. Something is happening to me. Something is happening to all the people around me. So this member statement, this accountability to our highest aspiration, is calling us to something. Let's get back to this tithing thing that might have made some of you anxious. And again, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. You all came up with this. But this tithing thing, if right now we can't imagine how we could possibly do something like that, like how can I possibly give 10% of my income back to the spiritual community? I'm barely getting by. Don't worry. Be happy now. It is calling us not into burden. It is not calling us into struggle. It is not calling us into strain. It is calling us to grow. It is calling us to become something. And all you have to do, who knows what your part is in this? Who knows, like, all you have to do is what?
Show up.
Show up.
Be willing.
That was what I was looking for, but show up is perfect as well. Be willing, show up. All we have to do is be willing. The truth already lives in us, and our willingness opens the way. So all we have to say is, gosh, I have no idea how I could possibly tithe and give 10% of my income back to the center, but I sure would be willing if there's a way. I sure would be willing. And not just with tithing. I'm only mentioning tithing because that's the one I think would make people the most anxious. But with all the statements in the member statement that we think, gosh, I don't know if I can live up to that, all it's doing, it is calling us to grow. It is calling us to become something greater, not by struggle and strain, but by our willingness to allow the presence of infinite love, intelligence, wisdom to move through us, which means getting rid of our resistance. Or as Emerson more directly said, get your bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. Right? All we're doing is getting ourselves out of the way. Now that requires sometimes a little bit of work. We've got to clear out some things. But it's not about struggle or strain. Once I say I'm willing, the Spirit of God starts to move in me and clear out what needs to be cleared out. So all I'm asking you is, in considering this member statement, what are you being called to be in alignment? What are you being called to become to be in alignment with the statement? And again, the hint is, it's not about struggle. It's not about burden. It's about opening something on the inside. It's about a greater degree of willingness, letting go of resistance, being willing to face fears and doubts. And face simply means look at them. Doesn't mean fight them. It just means I'm willing to look at myself. I'm willing to look at my life. How many of you know the power of the light of your awareness? The power of the light of your awareness. The light of your awareness is the beginning of you transforming your life into something totally more powerful, bigger, greater than it is right now. Simply by the light of your awareness, that I am willing to take an honest look at myself, not critically. We're very good at that, right? Not critically, not judgmentally, not where I'm going to cut myself down. But I'm willing to look at myself clearly in the mirror with the eyes of love, but also with the eyes of great clarity. And from there, I am willing to begin shifting in me, not out here, not struggle, strain, resistance, in me. Like I'm willing to start letting go of doubt. I'm willing to start letting go of skepticism. I'm willing to start letting go of judgment and blame and shame and all the rest of that. Have to know how. I'm just willing to do that. So I invite you to be willing to grow in front of each other. I also invite you I have to pause here so I don't get myself in trouble. I also invite you to stop worrying about everyone else's growth. Stop worrying about everyone else's accountability. Someone gave a talk years ago that said, stay in your lane. Like in the road, right? Stay in your lane. Get out of everyone else's lane. Stay in your lane. How are you being called to grow? How are you being called to shift? How are you being called to be more accountable? Be the model that inspires everyone else, and you won't have to worry about anyone else. Love each other. Love heals all. Love inspires. Love invites something greater. Love each other. What if that's your job? What if your job is to love each other? What if your job is not to fix each other, or to check up on each other, or to make sure and hold each other accountable? What if your job is to love each other and then invite each other into a greater experience? Enjoy the journey. Let's turn within for prayer. And so I just know right now in this moment that there is one power, one presence, one infinite life that is moving in and through all that is. It is the only thing that is happening. And it is a power and a presence for good, having its essence as love and wholeness and harmony and perfection. And it is this one that is my very life. My very life and being is an expression of this one whole, perfect, complete life of God. This is the truth of each person here. And it is the truth of each person who concerns each person here. And so it is in this awareness of our oneness and connectedness with and as the infinite that I speak this word right now. And I know that as we step into this member statement, that it is simply calling us to become and to be who we truly are already. To simply be more of who we are in our highest essence. And so it is only calling us to have a richer, greater, more joyful, more prosperous life. And so I know that that is truly what is taking place right now. That a greater life for this community and a greater life for each person individually is now unfolding. That yes, that says commitment, is opening the doors right now as I speak this word to such a greater life for this community and such a great life for each one individually. I am so grateful for this awareness. I am so grateful for this truth. I am so grateful for the good and more good and more good that is unfolding right here for this community and right here for each one individually. And in great, great gratitude, I release that mutable law that only knows to say yes, and therefore I know it is done. I invite each one to ground and accept it with me with the words, and so it is.